Hi, today our guest is Mr. Aneel Mussarat, who is a property entrepreneur, the founder of MCR Property Group, which was founded back in 1989, and today employs directly and indirectly over 1,500 people in the United Kingdom. MCR Property Group has a residential portfolio which, once delivered, will have a value of over £4 billion. Mr. Mussarat is also the recipient of many honors and awards, including Businessman of the Year Award given by the Muslim Foundation. He is also the founder and CEO of Rafi Mussarat charity, which is under his son's and father's name. The Rafi Mussarat Foundation aspires to build homeless shelters across the United Kingdom, starting off in Manchester. The shelters will provide free accommodation, food and mental health support to the homeless with a long-term vision of getting them off the streets. Let's welcome our guest for tonight, Mr. Aneel Mussarat.
So thank you, Mr. Aneel Mussarat, giving us the time out of your busy schedule today. So we would want to know that you've done incredible things in your life and you've achieved so much. But let's go back sometime. When you were a kid, were you one of those kids who were selling lemonade and candies in the classroom? How did it all start in your journey?
So I got into the property business by default, really. Sadly, my father passed away when I was 9, and my mother, with my father's estate, she bought 4 houses indirectly. When I say indirectly, my dad's elder brother helped my mother buy the 4 houses. And so my mother, in the late 70s, early 80s, my father passed away in 1977. In the early 80s, there's an enormous amount of language barriers for typical Asian Pakistani housewives. So I was the eldest in the family. So I'd help my mum when I was like 10, 11 to go out to collect the rents, look after the houses, and she'd pull up outside the house. I'd go ring the bell, collect the rent check, and then I'd go on my bike to collect rent checks, and that's how I got into the property business. So I wasn't that good at school, unfortunately. My mother really wanted me to make something of myself at school, and academically I was very, very poor, very bad. So I left school at the age of 17. I didn't do too well in my O-levels and stroke, nowadays they call them GCSEs, and I really did badly in them, so I retook them, scraped through them. Then I...
Do you remember your result?
The first time round it was E's, F's, that was the result.
So you got E for entrepreneur.
So my daughters, in their GCSEs, my eldest daughter got 14 A stars, second one got 10 A stars, and the third one got 3 or 4 A stars. But yeah, my daughters did significantly better than I did. And so I left school at the age of 17, and then I bought my first house when I was 18 with a 95% mortgage because I understood property. And with my first house, I bought it, rented it out, then bought a second house, bought it and sold it, made a nice profit. Then I started to buy and sell houses in Manchester. So that's how I got into the property business. And I loved it, really, because basically being the eldest in the family and being a big failure at school, and all my other cousins were doing extremely well academically, all of our family friends' kids were doing really well. So there's a lot of peer group pressure as well, but I just couldn't make it work at school. So then I got working full time, and I was focused on buying and selling houses in Manchester between 1989 and 1997. Bought probably 1,000 houses and sold them all over Greater Manchester, and that was a great experience. Then from 97 to 2007, I started to expand all over the UK, started to buy houses, land, buildings, office buildings, retail shops, literally all over the UK. So, I built a very, very large property portfolio all over the UK. And then came the financial meltdown. But before I talk about the financial meltdown in end of 07, what I found was that I worked hard with a focused attitude, determined attitude with goals, and it paid huge dividends. People around me, the business community that I traded with, transacted with, funders, bankers, they all supported me. Because if you try hard with a logical approach in the UK, sky is the limit really, with the enormous amount of determination.
Do you think that model could still be replicated?
That's a good question. I do actually wonder if I started today. So I think if I started today, with what I know today, if I was 20 years of age or 18 years of age, I always think I'll be a lethal weapon. I'd be so good at my job because I've got so much experience now. I've got 29 years of experience. So because obviously starting off in business, you make huge mistakes daily. That now you don't make them because you've got so much experience under your wing. To be honest, there's so many entrepreneurs that are born every day. But what I notice, youngsters nowadays don't like to take risk. They're risk adverse.
And how, so if you could be more specific on that, so with an example, for instance.
People now, what I see youngsters nowadays, they want to go towards careers, get jobs, millennials, focused in that arena.
Because that's easy. I mean, so again, if I come back to my question, I think it was more of an enabling environment back in the days when you could get 95% mortgage. Do you think if somebody, 25, 26, or even coming out of school wants to start and replicate whatever you did, is that possible even now in this day?
You still can get a 95% mortgage if you want to. One thing is clear, no one brings anything to your doorstep. You have to go out there looking for it. You have to go out there with the initiative. Even today, in business, we still go out there looking for opportunities. And you create the opportunities. That's got to be your mindset. People think if they just sit on their laurels, i.e. just sit around, things will happen. That does not happen like that. You have to be proactive. You have to go out there, look for opportunities in quite an aggressive fashion, to be honest, in a structured fashion, and you have to have a clear vision what you want to achieve. Have clear goals. It's very simple.
And how did you always knew you wanted to do property? Because a lot of people are also waiting for their calling, so they are confused that what sector they should go in. Once they graduate, getting a job is the easier route. But then how do they find an opportunity? How do you create an opportunity?
So I did not know property was my calling. That's all I knew. It wasn't my calling. That's all I knew. Academically at school, I failed badly. The only thing in between leaving school, I worked at McDonald's. I didn't like that at all. So then that's how I got into the property business. I thought I need to do something. I thought about becoming a taxi driver. So I thought they don't seem like very appealing or prosperous jobs. Buying a house, renting it out, selling it seems pretty good. So that's how I just gradually learn on the job, by mistakes, by meeting people, by being proactive. Generally, human nature is someone comes to ask you for help, guidance. People usually give them the right advice. Then after that, you have to put the pieces together yourself. So you have to be, I can't stress this enough, you have to be proactive. You have to decide what you want to do, then just go for it. A lot of people don't have clarity of thought, unfortunately. I see this in business every day. So having clarity of thought is very important. Make a decision. It could be the wrong decision, and then you can change afterwards, but at least try.
What's the biggest failure you've had in terms of business? And how did you cope with it? Or, do you come across failures on a more regular way, the bigger risks you take? And how do you cope with it?
So, if you don't have failures, if you don't make mistakes, you're never going to learn. So, as long as you learn from your mistakes, from your failures, that's how you grow as an individual, and that's how you gain enormous amount of practical experience. So, I talked about the financial meltdown at the end of 07. So from the end of 07 to the end of 11, I had a huge portfolio. worth about £1 billion, and had bank funding of just under £600 million. So I was only 36, 37 years of age then, quite young, and I was terrified that I could go bankrupt. I was terrified that I could fail pretty badly. The humiliation, personal defeat, public embarrassment, all those things were quite scary and daunting if I look back now. And I had faith in Allah. I had enormous amount of determination, I had a good team around me, and then we navigated our way through that financial meltdown. It took 4 years, but we got there. And I learned so much as untrue, what not to do, how to structure, how to not repeat the same mistakes, how to be a lot more proactive. I really improved significantly as an operator, raised my game even further. And then, from January 12th to today's date, we've been taking advantage of the financial dislocation. Now we're taking advantage of the Brexit dislocation that's surrounded the economy.
So, what is your advice to people who are coming out of universities and trying something, but they are failing, they are embarrassing themselves? How do you keep up with this peer pressure and once you become a laughing stock? Have you experienced this as well through your journey?
Yeah, you see, sadly, the human nature is that behind your back people comment, say nasty things. Nowadays, I'm not on social media, but I'm sure people say things about me. But you have to learn to ignore it, really, because if you take it to heart, then you spend negative time fighting off negative things. So my simple advice is to everybody: never ever give up. If you have a failure, pick yourself up and go again. If you have another failure, pick yourself up and go again. You're living your own life. No one's going to live your life for you. And if you end up on the floor, no one's going to really pick you up. Your loved ones might help you out a little bit, but everyone's so preoccupied with their life. So you have to get yourself together and pick yourself up and go again. It's simply sheer determination. Most people who end up with a degree, a graduation, I think they're very smart people. And because I couldn't get there, and I tried, but I just could not get there. So they're fundamentally smart people. And if they use that smartness in a positive, constructive, practical way, they can really do well.
Exactly, because I think degrees are in a structured environment, and outside the classroom, the world is a very unstructured place.
Nowadays, what I understand is we employ hundreds of people, and what I understand is degrees are quite practical as well. Is that you have to learn to apply what you learn at university or while you're studying and in your day-to-day life. And nowadays, I think people are pretty smart, to be honest, but you have to be smart and practical, and above all, apply. And one final thing I've learned: I'm not that smart, I'm not that intelligent, but what I am is very hardworking. Hard work hides a lot of failures, a lot of shortcomings. If you're hardworking, you can be consistent with your hard work, you can really climb up that ladder.
So how's your day like? How many hours do you work in a day?
I do work long hours. I start about 6:30 in the morning and I finish about 8:30.
And this has been like this since you were in your 20s?
Yeah, every day. I like no substitute to hard work.
Absolutely. And so it must be a very stressful job.
On the weekends I don't work that hard.
But you work on Saturdays?
And Sundays, yes. Saturday half day, Sundays mornings,
And of course this is a very stressful position where you've built this empire, you directly and indirectly employ around 1,500 people in the UK. How do you deal with all this stress that comes with the job?
I like to be able to, if you're organised, things fall into place, and I've got a very good team, a loyal team, and an experienced team. Also, I think if you enjoy what you do, it's not stress. I really love what I do. You you have to find something that you enjoy so it becomes a passion, and then you learn it a lot quicker, and then it's not problematic really.
How do you generate new ideas? Or creative, do you have a creative space? Because when you are in the firefight 7 days a week, where do you get time to generate and
I meet smart people, I read articles, and one thing leads to another. You have initiative, you have good people around you, you bounce ideas off each other, you learn on the job, and smart ideas do then get created, to be honest. And not all those ideas turn into positive success stories. Some of them fail, then you have to start again.
You said you read, so what's your favourite book?
I read property magazines and things like that really. When I say read books, I read
or so property is mainly
Property Week, Estates Gazette, Financial Times. I like reading the FT because property nowadays has become so sophisticated. I like to read the Financial Times to understand what's going on in the wider economy.
What is your greatest fear and how do you manage it?
Failure, fear of failure. I don't want to be on the floor. So basically, I work hard to avoid that situation. And now it's become a way of life. I love my job. It's my hobby. It's my passion. I like working hard. And it's opened so many doors for me. I've learned so many things and I've met so many wonderful and smart people on this journey.
So should entrepreneurs be afraid of failing or they should fail?
If you're in business, you do get failures. You do get setbacks. But as long as you have the attitude that you're going to pick yourself up again, you're going to take it in your stride, and those failures, you will not let them drag you totally down, economically, mentally, socially, then you're on a winning streak. But failures, as long as you're willing to learn from your failures, that's the key.
What are those 3 skill sets that you would advise to somebody in their 20s that they should definitely develop if they want to be an entrepreneur?
Be innovative, be determined, and above all, use your energy positively.
Do you have bad days at work?
Yeah, you have bad situations, you deal with them, and then you just have to ignore it and move on.
Who's your inspiration?
Oh, there's so many people. I mean, one person is Imran Khan, such a my childhood hero, and he's a great guy, and there's so many other people in business that I've met that.
In business, who's your inspiration?
Oh, there's so many people. There really is so many US business people, UK. There's so many.
Donald Trump? As a businessman?
As a businessman, growing up, yeah, great. I used to love reading his articles, his books and everything. I'm not sure I agree with his politics though.
Politics aside. So when you are not working, what's your passion apart from property?
To be honest, most of my time I spend working. I've really got to philanthropy now, so I'm enjoying that area. Giving back is a great sense of achievement as well, and fulfillment, and it's in my religion as well to do as much charitable efforts as you can.
With your foundation?
Yeah, so I really enjoy doing charity work. So I'm trying to build a quite significant charity.
Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure.
And another thing, so why do people, once they make a lot of money, they want to, do you think this is more of a human nature, or do you find that with material things you don't find that contentment, and it's only in giving that you get some sort of special feeling? If you could please shed some light on that.
So, a lot of people have helped me on my journey. You know, if you just imagine, my father passed away when I was 9. I'm 49 now, so 40 years ago. And a lot of people have helped me on that journey. A lot of people. So I help people out in business, especially youngsters. I want to guide them. We hire a lot of youngsters here as well. And at the same time, consider myself to be super lucky and fortunate. So I want to give back as much as I can because I think I've been very blessed. So in the UK, in Manchester, I'm in the process of trying to build my first homeless shelter. Homelessness is quite epidemic in the UK. So in collaboration with Manchester City Council, we're building a homeless shelter in Manchester. So I was born in Manchester, so it's going to be a big effort, but I'm going to try and cure Manchester's homelessness through my foundation, working in collaboration with Manchester City Council on my UK business network. And then in Pakistan, through my foundation, I'm building hospitals. The first one's been launched in Mia Valley in Punjab. So I want to build more hospitals in Pakistan, which will be focused around mother and child care, primary health care. And so quite excited about all of that because there's an enormous amount of need in Pakistan for healthcare. I mean, there's a lot of needs, but healthcare is one area that is pretty bad.
And your role becoming as a social entrepreneur as well with the Naya Pakistan housing scheme, where I think you pledged 50 million houses, or it's 5 million houses?
5 million. The government's strategy is to develop 5 million, facilitate to build 5 million houses.
Is this unprecedented?
Yeah, it is. I mean, as you know, Prime Minister Imran Khan has a huge vision. He wants to fix Pakistan. He wants ordinary people to have an equal opportunity. Like we had, I'm from an ordinary family here in the UK, but we have got an equal opportunity here. And I've demonstrated that. If you work hard with a determined attitude, the system in the UK facilitates you to grow.
It's an enabling environment.
100%. Pakistan doesn't have that. So if you're working in McDonald's in Pakistan or a taxi driver, sadly you might end up in that space for the rest of your life. So Prime Minister Imran Khan's vision is to create equal opportunity for everybody. So owning a house is a step towards that, really.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why he's my hero. Is a huge change of the social fabric in Pakistan.
Do you plan to go into politics as well sometime?
I love entrepreneurship, I love business, so at the moment I'm focused on trying to really grow our business here. I want to get this homelessness charity really motoring in the UK, especially in Manchester, and I want to get the hospital projects going, so I need to create capital and wealth for all of that, so I'm focused on doing that for the moment. Politics is interesting, but at the moment I just love business.
How do you think Brexit would affect the property market?
My personal reading, what I see since Brexit 2016, hard asset values are down by 15 to 20%. They could be down another 10, maybe even 15%. So I think that creates opportunity to buy financially dislocated assets, and that's what we're focused on doing, to try and take huge advantage of this Brexit dislocation.
So right now, for all the young entrepreneurs who want to go into property, you think it's a good time?
Yeah, I think for young entrepreneurs to go into any business right now, they're coming in at a lower part of the cycle. So hopefully, if it's down for the next 2 to 4 years, they can catch it at the bottom end really and learn a lot.
My last few questions: how may Allah give you a longer life, healthier life? But how do you want Aneel Mussarat to be remembered?
I think we all aspire to be a good person. I want to be remembered as a reasonable good person.
What do you think has been the purpose of your life?
I'm trying to find that still.
Still?
Yeah.
How do you define success?
You see what? That's a good question. I still feel I have a lot to offer in my work life. I have enormous amount of potential and energy that I still want to utilize. And so I don't feel successful because I still think I've got so much to achieve and I feel I can do so much more. So that's what drives me as well. People become content very quickly. I don't feel content at all, so that drives me harder.
So what is the end goal then? When would you get satisfied? Do you have a goal in mind?
I think we all know when the game's over, when the time's up. So I don't feel that anywhere near that at the moment.
Good. And lastly, do you have any words of wisdom, anything for young entrepreneurs who are looking for an opportunity, or people who are still trying to make it big and are on that journey?
Yeah, I think please dream. Don't be scared of dreaming, because I dream even now, 49 years of age.
But millennials, I think, are
And
only dreaming. That's the problem. They're not
dream
dreaming.
with goals, but put those dreams into play with goals, targets, self-assessment. Check yourself that you are getting closer to your dreams and you're making the effort to fulfill those dreams. Because if you think things are going to happen by just sitting, that doesn't work. You have to be out there in it to win it, really.
Do you plan to write a book on yourself, like a biography?
No.
Where you can have all the tricks of the trade which people can learn from?
No plans like that.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.